Well, hey there. Alright, so now that I've done the reviews on the four decks, I want to do a quick video on matchups for these four guys. So, I'm also going to throw in some cards you want to see in your opening hand that you might want to mulligan for, and how they go head-to-head with each other. So I'll see you in the video. Hey, what's going on there, crewmates? So, pre-release should be starting in about a couple of 1 day by the time this goes up. It'll be the 30th of September, where all of the pre-releases will be beginning around that date, and I wanted to get up a little bit of thoughts on the matchups between the four decks. So you had an idea on, if you already had your favorite in mind, what your good matchups are and what your poor matchups are. And I'm also going to throw in some key cards that I think are the cards that you want to look for in your opening hands. And maybe you want to try and mulligan for those, because you do get that nice free mulligan, so be sure to take advantage of it. So, first off, we have our would-be Pirate King, Mr. Mungadi Luffy, Mr. Straw Hat himself. Now, he has a little bit of an infamy in being probably the hardest deck to not play per se, but to get that win in. And that's because its matchups are a little iffy. So against Blue Crocodile, he has issues with maintaining attackers because they can be bounced back to the hand so frequently. And against Kaido, he has a little bit of an issue in the same aspect. When you try to establish your attackers to be as aggressive as possible, because that's what this deck wants to do, Kaido has a field day most of the time, just kind of getting them off the board almost for free, and then still applying pressure for himself. Now, against the green deck, they don't have those tools. So green is probably one of the more even matchups for red specifically, because they can't just outright get rid of your guys as easily. All they really have is killer, and that needs to at least wait until you attack. So that at least lets you get in that one attack. And for the most part after that, they have to swing into all your guys so that they can't kill you faster. If that makes sense. It's still a hard matchup because green seems to just be a very strong deck. They have a lot of guard. They have a lot of defensive options, which hurts you a bit. But when you're setting up and you want to see that opening hand, I would suggest seeing our boy Jinbei, our big Luffy, and our big Zoro. Because they are the attackers that not only do they not have guard, so you want to play them, they efficiently hit numbers. So Zoro is a 7k with just one Dawn, Big Luffy is a rusher, and then Jinbei for one Dawn lets you boost another guy by one Dawn when he attacks. So you can really pump up your guys to efficient numbers and hit like that 7k mark very nicely. And you want to be applying more attackers as you're swinging with attackers, so if they die, you can have more attackers next turn. But these are my main guys that I like for opening the game, so that you can automatically just have your attackers to start playing. Other than that, I already went through the deck, so we can move on to the next one, which I'm going to talk about the green deck himself, the infamous best deck that people are talking about. Now, it is a very solid deck, and it is solid for a few reasons. It's a very balanced deck. It has offense, it can defend itself, and it actually has consistency. That's what makes green deck strong. Because as you can see, there's already more cards in my opening hand that you want than in the previous deck. And its matchups go as follows. Against red, like I said with the red part, there's a bit of evenness there, because you can both aggress. It's really whoever aggresses the best in that matchup kind of gets the win there. Because you can't, like green can't control the red board efficiently like blue and purple. And then red can actually establish its attackers a little bit better. It's still a hard game, don't get me wrong, but I think red has a fight with green at least. Against blue, now blue is going to be my pick for the green counter. Why is that? Because blue not only can stop the aggressiveness from the X-Drake and the Basil Hawkins because of its bounce effects, it also has the only reliable out to the 7-drop kid, being not only Dofi, but Sables, which can bounce it off the field as soon as it's played, and the deck actually plays 4 copies of it and 2 copies of Dofi, which gives it 6 cards that can clean up the 7-drop kid pretty nicely. And then purple has an iffy matchup with green. I've played it several times. I'd say green has the edge for the most part, just because of how consistent green is. and it's just pretty awkward just because purple isn't as consistent as green. So they're both strong, but green seems to have the edge. So my pick for its worst matchup, definitely Crocodile, definitely blue. If you're looking for a deck that can get the head up on green, make sure you know what you're doing with blue, because it may have the advantage, but blue is a very technical deck. If you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to get that win for free. You're going to have to work for it, and you're going to need to know how to use your tools with blue to beat green. It's not going to be free, but don't get me wrong there. Blue doesn't auto beat green. Blue has an advantage of green if you apply the correct amount of pressure and control over the green deck. But when it comes to opening hands, why is the deck so consistent? Is because not only does it have several options, even more options of the other three colors that you want to see in your opening hand, they have a card like Bonnie that can get to the other options you would have wanted to see in your opening hand, which allows the 4 copies of her to be included in those cards you want to see in your hand. So Basil Hawkins and X-Drake are your low drops that are your good attackers that you would like to see, and then your big kid is going to be your big end game attacker that you want to see. And then because there are 4 Bonnie, if you open Bonnie, you're pretty much going to be able to see at least one of these off of the Bonnie search. So if you just open Bonnie, you know, you might want to keep that because you can get to your attackers. But if I don't see Bonnie, but I see one of these other 3, I'm not going to mulligan for Bonnie, because what's the purpose of Bonnie? Bonnie's purpose is to get you to the cards that you want to attack with. So if you already have them, why are you getting rid of them? That's at least how I see Bonnie. Like, Bonnie gets you the cards you want. If you already have the cards you want, why would I mulligan for Bonnie? It doesn't really make sense to me, at least. So there's the matchup for green. We're going to go ahead and move into purple. So purple's matchup, since we already covered, you know, the green and red, we know that purple, in my opinion, has the advantage over green. Sorry, that is wrong. Advantage over red, because it can get rid of the established attackers before they can get their value in an attack. And then green is a bit of an awkward matchup, because green is just consistent, has offense, has defense. And against blue, I believe purple has the advantage over blue. Why do I think that? Is because blue's mechanic of bouncing is actually advantageous to purple because of the amount of on-play effects that purple has. So while the blue deck might be able to slow the purple deck down by bouncing their attackers before they can attack, if they're getting so much value off of replaying the card, you can go ahead and supplement the fact that you aren't attacking by just getting the free pops that the deck can do. So if you play the king, for instance, and get a pop, and then they bounce it with a Sables or a Dofi or what have you, and then you're able to replay the king and clear another guy off their board for free, you're still breaking pretty good on card advantage, even though they stopped you from attacking. And then the big Kaido himself, of course, can't be bounced by anything. There is nothing that can target him. And unfortunately for purple, because we're counting the stage card, there are only a couple of big guys that I would like to see in my opening hand. So we have the 2 Kaido and the 2 King that are in the deck, and then the 4 Onigashima. So my thought on this deck is this. I prefer prioritizing King and Kaido over Onigashima in my opening hand. Why do I do that? Because if I don't have King or Kaido, what am I ramping for? If I don't have the big guys that want the ramp to be played, what's the point of ramping per se? So if I have an opening hand that has King or Kaido in it and not Onigashima, I am most likely going to keep that hand. Now, that isn't to say a hand with Onigashima is bad. That is to say I would rather have the big guy so that I can make sure my offense is ready, rather than just ramp for no reason. Because after a couple turns of Onigashima, if you're not playing your big guys, you're not really doing anything with the Onigashima. That's at least where I put it. But if you end up trying to mulligan for the big guys and end up with an Onigashima, it's not bad. But I just want my offense rather than the card that I need to get to the offense. But if I don't open these, I'm not guaranteed to see them actually. It's just not consistent because there's only 2 of each of them. You're just not guaranteed to see. You do have draw power, but you don't have a card like Bonnie, so you can't check top 5 and try and just really dig in there. You're just kind of mildly drawing cards and hoping you get there. But that's what I want to say on that, at least. And then the last deck is blue. So since we've been through the other 3 colors, now we know that I believe blue has the advantage over red because it can get rid of its established attackers before they can attack. I believe it has the advantage over green as long as you know what you're doing against green. You can go ahead and control the board and then win in the end game because blue also has the most amount of blockers of any deck. Blue has 10 blockers. It has 4 Law, 4 Boa, and 2 Crocodile. It also has Moria, Gecko Moria, which can get back the Law, so that's technically 12 blockers. And then there's some more of the shenanigans where you're able to actually block other attacks too. So it actually has the best chance of just making it so that the kid cannot kill you with the nice 12k push. It is able to wall that out pretty effectively. And then against purple, I think, is blue's worst matchup, because you do not want to bounce their cards, they get a lot of value from it. However, out of the 4 decks, in my opinion, I think blue has the least amount of cards that I like to see in my opening hand. Because the only cards I particularly have worth of note that you want to see in your opening hand is Dofi and Centauro. Those are the ones that stick out for me, at least. And there's only 2 of each of those. Dofi, because not only is he a disruption, but he has 7k, and that's actually hard to come by in the blue deck. There's not a lot of beaters. So you want that number. And then Centauro can pull a Pacifista out of your deck every turn, and that's where you get your aggro from, because aggro is a little hard in blue. You don't have a finisher per se, like in the Kaido deck where you kind of kill a life and go for game with the big Kaido and the leader Kaido. And then Kid is a threat on himself. He goes for game by himself. And then red's just kind of like a Molly Rush, where you just want to attack with all your guys. Blue, kind of slower, grindier, wants to control the board, and doesn't have a lot of attack pressure. So being able to play that Pacifist is really important. So if you can, I would definitely try and get the Centauro if you could. But if you open Dofi, I probably wouldn't mulligan that. I'd keep the Dofi. And then another card that you could say is good is, like, if you're playing against green per se, if you open a Sables, you might want to just hold the hand so that you have an out to the 7-drop blocker, so that you can force them to at least play it twice, because it really limits to what they can do in that turn if they're playing a 7. So I think, as a little review, red is a little bit of an uphill battle against blue, a bit of an uphill battle against purple, and then I think it kind of has an even match. It doesn't particularly shine against green, but I think it has one of the better matches, at least in this repertoire, against green. We go to green, who is pretty much neck and neck with red, is good against purple, to me, has a little bit of an edge, and then has a disadvantage against blue. And then we have purple, who is good against blue, good against red, and then probably bad against green, if we want to go as black and white as that. And then we have blue, which is good against red, good against green, and then bad against purple. So there's a pretty good line there, but that is for you to decide on your own. Also, I just wanted to give you my thoughts on the matchups between these 4 decks and how they go head to head with each other. And I hope you got something out of this video before our pre-release. I hope that helped you, maybe even decide or help you decide on the deck that you wanted to pick for your event. If you like this video, go ahead and give a super to that sub button so that we can go ahead and show that support. And for a question of the day, since it's so close to the pre-release event, if you want to leave a comment, go ahead and tell me what deck you want to pick for your super pre-release. What are you confident in? What do you think is going to go? Or if maybe you aren't confident in it to win, maybe you just want to play it because that's your favorite deck. Let me know down below, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later.